Now, one of the things that we see in the background of a lot of reenactment or display photos is the transit chest for the Vickers. It wouldn't have been, in a gun emplacement. They'd have been left. So the guns were carried in their transit chests on 1500 weight trucks, and they were carried in the limbered wagons in the transit chest, but they weren't the guns were then taken out of the transit chest as part of the dismount training. So you didn't have the gun carried to the position in its chest and then taken out. You just didn't. It didn't happen. So why they are in display photos is clearly twofold. One, to show off that they exist and that you've got them, and the other is to sit on. And what you'll find is if you end up having this as the height at which you sit, your gun, when you're sat behind it like this, you will not be covered. So you're inclined to set up the gun that little bit higher so you can sit on it and still look down the sights without bending over. But you're meant to sit on the floor. Occasionally you see an ammunition box on its side to be sat on, but certainly not the transit chest. While we're here though, it's worth just opening the transit chest up and having a quick look inside. And you can see that it holds a cleaning rod on the left there, or on the front face of the transit chest, one of the cleaning rods, and on the rear, in the base, you have a spare barrel. Now this is a replica spare barrel actually in this one, but you have the spare barrel there. Now, so it does contain those things, but they would be carried forward when needed. This is purely for transit. It's worth saying all of the other fixtures and fittings are not for the Vickers. They're actually for the Lewis light machine gun that would fit in when this. You can pull this out, not with the cleaning rod in place, but turn it over, and you are ready to put the Lewis gun in there. You need to take the shoulder stock off, but it's a universal chest that will fit both weapons. So all of these extra holes on the top and the sockets in the back there are for Lewis spares, not for Vickers. What you also see far too many of is the tripod transit chest being used in displays that are supposedly representing a combat scenario. Now the tripod was only used for transporting these overseas because it has screws that fix down the lid, not any clips or anything like that. These are all screwed in, so they take a long time to undo. Clearly not a combat piece of equipment. And the tripod folds up, goes in there, and it has these fixtures and fittings that enable it to be secure for transit overseas. They're also incredibly heavy, weigh about I think it's about 30 pounds of wood in there, maybe a bit less, but certainly not something in addition. Once the tripod's in there, it's a very heavy piece of equipment to carry. A lot of these came over with the right and arms import of the guns and tripods in the early 90s, so that's why they exist in the quantities that they do today. But they're certainly not something that you'd see in a combat situation. I say that there are some photos of the Australians in the Far East that have obviously got new and additional tripods coming through armourers, replacement tripods coming in these chests, but it's not something that there is any place for in the combat equipment of a machine gun battalion.